What's goody, fam? I'm up here today at the farm and I just went down both of these rows snipping the weeds like we talked about. Not pulling them, which would turn over the soil and bring up dormant weed seeds. So we're disturbing the soil as much as possible, snipping the weeds, laying them down as a chop and drop mulch. And as I was going down the rows, I had some good thoughts going. So I'm going to talk about a few things that I was thinking about. One, lettuce regrowth. I talked about that in a previous video, and I just kind of want to document exactly what I was talking about. And lettuce slash crop spacing slash bed spacing, and a few other things. So let's get into it. So first off, with the lettuce, I was talking about the cut and come again. So some people just harvest the outside leaves, or you could take all of this and snip it all right above the growth point, and then it will regrow. So all this lettuce that you see here is its second growth. I've cut them, they grew back, and you can see I cut a few that were ready. 1, 2, so these two will be coming up on their third regrowth. And once I harvest all of these again, or I guess their second regrowth, but third cut. So I just took third cut from these, and they'll be regrowing for their second time. So you probably get a few more, maybe 1 or 2 more regrowths. So you basically get like 4 regrowths before they go to seed, rather than just if you had cut the whole head below the growth stem, then it wouldn't grow back. So, and you can see I harvested all of these Roxy lettuce for the health food store this past week. So they're regrowing. So they grew up once, I harvested, they grew up again, I harvested. So now these are regrowing for their third time, right? And these weren't ready yet, so I'll get them on the next cut when these are ready again. So you get in the picture here, this one is still the second regrowth, but these are growing up for their third growth. So we'll let this all regrow real nice, and we'll come up with another 15 pounds of lettuce, plus maybe a little bit more, for local health food store deliveries to the co-op in Williamstown, Massachusetts, and Spice and Nice in Bennington, Vermont, and the Wild Oats Co-op, it's called. So another thing I wanted to kind of talk about is that these lettuce I had to harvest from, they weren't really ready yet, but I needed to make that first 15-pound delivery. So it seemed that when I had snipped them, they it actually just like stimulated them, and now they all look very beautiful. I believe this is a new red fire variety. So it stimulated a little bit of growth, and that's really good for them. So now these are coming up on their second cut, because that was the first succession back there. Here's the second succession, and then it went into the third succession. And this lettuce has not been cut once yet. So we have that nice staggered succession, 4 different varieties of lettuce, It started all the way back here with the dark Lola Rosa lettuce. Then it went all the way down to the red oak leaf lettuce. Then it's Roxy lettuce. Then it's New Red Fire lettuce. And then we came back into the Roxy. And I think this may be New Red Fire or one last round of Dark Lola Rosa. Yeah, I think it is actually one last round of Dark Lola Rosa. So a full 80-foot row of lettuce, but the typical market garden standard is 30-inch beds. This is like a 60-inch bed wide, and usually people will plant lettuce a little bit closer together so that when they grow out, basically these two lettuce will touch and there will be no space between them. And these will probably get like that, but because they're a little bit closer. But these ones, so I'm all about not walking on the bed, right? But when it's a 30-inch bed and you're reaching over, it's way more doable. But when you're in the pathway and you have to reach over the 60 inches all the way to the other side, it's a really long reach. So by spacing these apart a little bit more, I can actually just walk in between the lettuce if you're very careful and not step on any of them. So I'm a real stickler about not stepping on beds, but I've actually observed that since it's grass, leaves, and then a thick layer of wood chips, by stepping on it, it doesn't really compact the bottom layer of soil. Yeah, I don't know. I would have to observe it more through time, but for right now it works. And you can see all of these Swiss chard coming through nicely on the outer edge. So the idea was walk down the pathway, harvest Swiss chard, and then when the lettuce is ready, you can reach over and harvest all the lettuce. And then if you look right here, all of these onions are doing very beautifully. And if you look down, you can see there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 onions right in this, because I planted 10 onions right in a 2-inch soil block. So there's 10 onions in each little square right here. And those will just grow out and give each other space. They'll be a little bit smaller, but that's using your space right there. And then same thing with the onions. I spaced them a little bit farther apart so I can just get 1 foot in between and weed when I need to and not step on them. Yeah, there's a little bit of compaction going on there, but I don't think it is as bad if you were to have had bare soil. So yeah, what I wanted to say about the wood chips and growing the lettuce on this wood chip mulch, it leaves for a very clean product. So I can basically almost come harvest lettuce out of the field and it's not dirty, because if there was wood chips, if there wasn't wood chips and this was bare soil, when it rained, the dirt bounces onto all the lettuce, and then when the dust blows, it gets completely dirty. But this lettuce, it just got rained on and it's perfectly clean. So I would harvest this lettuce right out of the field and it would be perfect. And on the other hand, when the lettuce is dry, it's actually better if you can get it in for storage properties. If you can just get it in a bag dry and put it directly into refrigeration, and just educate your customers that it lasts longer if you do it that way, and they can wash it at their own leisure. And obviously, if it was dirty, I would wash it. Like when we had all that pollen just a few weeks, like when I had the initial 30 bag order, we had all this pollen that was coming off from the trees. So it's like I literally needed to wash it because it had all this yellow powder on it. But that lettuce, very clean, no pollen, just rained, and it's going to dry out. So if I were to have to harvest tonight, that lettuce would be perfectly fine. And if you do wash it, you're just going to want to make sure you have a good salad spinner and a good aeration dryer, like a fan or something, because the wetter, the more wet it is when you put it inside, if it's a storage bag, the less of storage shelf life it's going to have. So that was kind of my walkthrough. We covered what the regrowth looks like, how we can get 6 to 7 weeks of lettuce just off of one planting. And if you stagger your plantings, that leads you up for months of lettuce. We covered the mulches, the spacing in between, what the onions, how they're growing, the Swiss chards coming around. And I think that everything is finally starting to grow good because we were at this really dry period for the last 2 weeks of May. And now that we finally have started getting our torrential downpours and good heavy rains, that flushes the nutrients through the soil. So it's almost like a compost tea. It's washing the nutrients that are locked up in the wood chips and the leaves and the grass underneath and just washing it down. And then the roots are able to have access to that. Hence why everything is growing so beautifully down there. But on another tip, I went down both of these rows of garlic for a second time of harvesting garlic scapes. I've made like 10 pounds of garlic scape pesto, and I'm gonna go down these rows a third time today and get the remaining scapes. Might have to come through for a last 4th time. And I got a nice 5-pound harvest of Oregon snow peas yesterday that was delivered to the Wild Oats Co-op today. And as you can see, there is the next picking ready to be picked. So I can come down this row again in the next few days for another delivery to Spice and Nice. And hopefully by that time, I'm gonna time it out so that the next lettuce harvest is ready with a big pea harvest. And you can see they have all those white flowers on there waiting to put on more fruit once I can come through and get these remaining pods. It's kind of half a one that I poorly picked last night. So we'll be checking the other rows of peas. There's another row over there and another row back there. Check up on those peas and come through, get the scapes. The weeding has been done in both of these beds, so let all the lettuce grow for the next harvest, and then we can go check out the potato beds. I'm blanking on the variety's name, but potatoes growing up nicely in this middle bed. I've been weeding them, throwing the weeds right on the bed. More potatoes. This variety's kind of lagging, but it's coming up nonetheless, doing good. And I know for a fact these are the all blue potato, and there's 2 rows going down this row. And then you can